Hello everyone. Today we'll be looking at the tier 2 dependents. There are a few questions that people have been asking me. So we'll look at some of the answers to those common questions for tier 2 dependents. People who are coming in as tier 2 into UK, and the dependents, what are the criteria, and whether they can work, whether they need to write IELTS, and what point they can get the visa and they can come into the country. So one of the common questions that I got when I was making these YouTube videos was whether the tier 2 dependents need to write the IELTS exam. So let's first look at what is an IELTS exam. IELTS is basically an exam that is approved by the UK government and the UK visa department specifically for proving your English language proficiency. So the question is, do the dependents need to prove their English language proficiency? The answer is no. So even the main applicant, they can prove their English language proficiency without writing an IELTS exam. In fact, one of the common ways of proving your English language proficiency is by using your degree certificate or by using your university degree to demonstrate that your university degree was taught in English, and your university degree needs to be recognized by the UK government body, which is called NARIC, UK NARIC. So NARIC. So mainly the common applicants, what they generally do is they can get their university degree certificate recognized by the UK NARIC online. There is an online application process where you can give your degree details. You can submit a photocopy of your degree and your university details, and UK NARIC will give you a certificate to say that yes, this degree was recognized and is accepted as a proof for your English language proficiency. So even the main applicants don't have to write IELTS. So let's look at the question whether the tier 2 dependents coming into the country need to prove their English language proficiency. No, for coming into the country as a tier 2 dependent, you do not need to prove your English language proficiency. All you need is the qualifying documents to prove that you're related, and the supporting documents for the tier 2 main applicant, and the evidence of funds. Those are the primary qualifications or primary conditions that need to be met, and tier 2 dependent don't need to have an English proficiency to come into this country. So they don't need to write IELTS. Do they need to ever prove prove their English language proficiency? Yes. At what point that's the point at which they apply for an ILR, which is called the indefinite leave to remain or the permanent residency in this country. So when you're applying for a ILR, permanent residency, or for that matter, even when you're applying for citizenship after that, at one of these points in time, you need to prove your English language proficiency as a dependent. Now, again, as a dependent, you have the same choice like the main applicant, that you don't need to write an IELTS exam for that. You can, if you have done a degree certificate, if you have done a university degree in India, then you can show your college degree as proof of your English language proficiency by following exactly the same process. You can apply online in UK NARIC. I'll give the links in my description for where to apply for the UK NARIC and how to apply. So you can apply online, and you can also get a certificate from the UK NARIC saying that your degree was taught in English, proving your English language proficiency, which means that you don't need to write these IELTS tests. But if you're not having a degree certificate, or if your degree was not taught in English, or if your degree is not recognized by UK NARIC, like for example, private universities are not recognized by UK NARIC. So in that scenario, you will have to write an IELTS exam if you finish 5 years, or if you are eligible for indefinite leave to remain or permanent residency in this country. So what is IELTS, how to write it, how to pass it, that's an elaborate topic altogether. So I'll cover that in a separate video. But for now, this is the only time where you will have to write IELTS exam as a dependent, or if you are going to work in this country and your employer requires you to prove your English language proficiency, then you'll have to write it. As it stands, the employer may not ask you for English language proficiency depending on the work criteria. So that's again an exception circumstance where you may need to write an IELTS exam before you get to the point of indefinite leave to remain. The other common question that I get, especially from dependents, is that can we come along with the main applicant? Like mostly if it's a spouse, they're asking, can we come along with the main applicant, or do we need to wait for a couple of more weeks before we can get our dependent visa? The answer is, again, you can come along with the main applicant. There's nothing stopping from a visa perspective. for the dependent to come along with the main applicant. In fact, when I came, my wife and my daughter had come along with me. Most of the consultants that I see coming to UK on tier 2 intra-company transfer, they apply for their wife and children along with their main visa, get the dependent visa together, and they come together. But again, from a logistics perspective, coming into a new country, it takes time to settle down, especially to finding a house in UK is a bit of a time consuming process. It can take 2 to 3 weeks. So generally, people also prefer to come alone individually, like in the first couple of weeks, and then bring their family after like 2 or 3 weeks once they've found a house and once they have settled down. That's an individual preference, but again, from a visa and from a requirement standpoint, there's nothing stopping the tier 2 dependent to come along with the main applicant. The main question that I get about tier 2 dependents is, can they work? The answer again is yes, they can work. From day one they can work. In fact, earlier the tier 2 dependents, when they come into the country like the main applicant, they have to apply for a national insurance number. That's the only thing that was a pre-requirement for you to start working or start looking for a job. Now, even the national insurance number, one of my viewers corrected me that it comes along with the BRP or the biometric resident permit. So they are able to work from day one after they come in. They don't require anything additional. Like in US, if somebody comes as a H4 dependent, then they will have to apply for an employment authorization. So in UK, there is no separate approvals or applications that you need to submit. As a tier 2 dependent, you can probably straight away work from day one. In fact, I've said it in few of my other videos as well. As a tier 2 dependent, you probably have a better chance of getting a job because there's no minimum salary criteria other than the national wage requirements for you. Like tier 2 main applicants, they have a minimum salary requirements as per the tier 2 process, but the dependents don't have any such salary restrictions. So the employers actually like the tier 2 dependents because they already come from a work authorization perspective. They're already in the country and they have work authorization, and there is no minimum salary requirements for them. So it's easier to employ the tier 2 dependents from a work perspective. And I'm seeing the tier 2 dependents who want to actually work and have work experience in India get a job a lot more easier than the other groups of people. In fact, in one of my other videos, I've even encouraged the tier 2 dependents to work, especially if the main applicant is coming on a tier 2 ICT, intercompany transfer. A lot of times what I've seen is the dependent spouse, either the wife or the husband, starts working for another organization, and that organization sponsors them a tier 2 general, whereby allowing the couple to continue in UK and gain a permanent residency. That is one of the most common options, where tier 2 ICT people, where they come on a 5-year visa and have to go back on an ICT because you can't generally easily switch from a tier 2 ICT to a tier 2 general. So the common scenario is where the spouse works for another organization as a dependent, and they like their work and they are given an option of getting a tier 2 general, and they sponsor the tier 2 general, whereby the main applicant now converts it into a dependent, and they can now stay for 5 years and get a indefinite leave to remain in this country. So hopefully this was useful, especially the people who've been asking these questions. I just wanted to collate and make a video, so in the future anyone who's looking for these answers will benefit out of it. Continue watching and share your comments. Thank you. Bye.